Hey Crimson fans, I'm Jeff Weinstein, and today I'll be talking to sophomores Henry Thrun and John Farinacci about their gold medal with Team USA at the World Junior Hockey Championships. Looking at the games and once competition started, obviously had a little early adversity with the loss to Russia, but you guys really seem to find your stride after, obviously. What began to click if you were to look back at group stage? What were some things that you remember, certain games, moments where you felt like you guys were starting to get on track?
Yeah, obviously that first game against Russia was pretty tough, but I felt like it was really good to deal with that adversity and kind of get punched in the mouth, so to speak, to start the tournament and learn how to rebound from that. I think after that, a lot of guys, I felt like we started buying in a lot more to how we wanted to play, and obviously, like I said, we didn't really have a great game that first game, and I think we started listening to what coach was telling us to do. We had a lot of different imagery and stuff like that with our whole barrel story. And I think a huge piece too was keeping each other positive. And in an empty arena and there's no fans, it's important to, coach kept telling us to fill each other's tanks, and I think we did a great job of that and kept each other positive and kind of created our own energy from there on out.
So I want to talk about a couple games, the two games particularly after we spoke last time. The Finland game first, and I'm glad that it worked out this way where Henry's talking. But John kind of had a viral moment in that game after he scored his goal. Just give me your perspective about the game itself. Obviously there was a swing in the third period, and then the late goal there to win it.
Yeah, it was a bit of a crazy game. We knew going in that the Finns were a team that's going to hang around, and they're not someone that you're going to blow out of the building. They're a team that had a couple really skilled players and had some good players on the back end as well. So we had a good game plan going into it, and we knew that it was going to be kind of an interesting one. And throughout the game, obviously, we got off to a good start and had the lead. And like I said, they just hang in it, and they find ways to stay close and keep the game interesting. So got a little I spent a little too much time in the penalty box that game, so I definitely wasn't always the best cause. But like Johnny came through big. Jackson Lacombe made a great pass to him, and he snuck in for the breakaway, scored as he usually does on the breakaways, and then obviously had that great celebration in the corner, which is just pure happiness and pure joy. So it was pretty cool to see him do that, for him being my teammate, and to see him having the success he had on the international stage in that game and throughout the whole tournament. That was definitely a little bit of a nail biter, and obviously it worked out in our favor.
Obviously, you didn't have a lot of time. Quick turnaround for the big game the next night against Canada. Both of you guys can jump in on this one too. The entire hockey world was watching. There was no hockey at that time other than the World Juniors, or almost no hockey. And there was a lot of hype about their team. And what struck kind of everybody watching that game is how you guys kind of just hit him right in the mouth in the first period. Just if you want to, just same thing that kind of Henry did with the Finland game, just look back on that game, what you remember, and where that game kind of ranks in your hockey career up to this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd have to say that was my favorite hockey game I've ever played in. Winning a gold medal at that tournament's pretty special, and yeah, that game was definitely a game we were all super excited about, and we had the big win against Finland the night before, so emotions were pretty high. But I think something that was pretty important for us was just staying relaxed, and I personally, I just felt like we had so much confidence in that room that we could go out there and win that game. And if we played our game and we played our systems and we all played together as one, I just felt like we had a lot of confidence in each other, that we could look to the guy to the right or the guy to the left, and we know that he's going to go out there and play his role and do his job. So, I felt like we were pretty relaxed going into the game, even though it was such a high stakes game, because, we had the confidence in each other that we were going to go out and get the job done.
Yeah, John mentioned it too. The confidence factor. I think that was a bit of an unknown amongst us. I think going into the game, obviously everyone in the hockey world kind of had Canada as the favorites as well in the whole tournament. but in our locker room, I feel that there was definitely a sense of we knew we were the better team at heart, and deep down we really should win this game and can win the game. And having that confidence of, all of us have dreamt of that game and played it 1,000 times in our heads, whether it be the World Junior gold medal game and the Stanley Cup Game 7. So I don't think there was a sense of nervousness amongst the room, which was really big. And I think we came out swinging and then kind of just locked it down from there. So it was definitely a special game and one I'll remember forever.
It was obviously a unique situation being in kind of a bubble, and a number of sports leagues, teams, what have you, have had a similar sort of setup. Just if you could just give people an idea what the day-to-day was like and what some of the unique things that you guys remember about being in that environment.
Yeah, we had a really unique experience, obviously, with going through the bubble and the testing every day and whatnot. So we started off in Plymouth, Michigan for a week, had our training camp there, and the team was selected from that. And we took a charter jet up to Edmonton, and from there went into a 4-day isolation period, just locked in our hotel rooms, testing every day. Once we got out of that, it was pretty much to the rink and back to the hotel. The hotel had pretty good setup. They had like a ping pong room for us. We had some meal rooms, a little TV area. It was a nice hotel, and the rink was unbelievable too. So it was definitely different than what we expected, but it was managed really well. And I think that we stayed busy, just with a lot of movies and TVs and kind of hanging out and playing Xbox and whatnot. So overall, it was really good.
Being there with Teddy obviously was unique. There weren't many guys on the team that had their coach there. Obviously, a handful did. But talk about what that was like going through this experience, having Teddy there, having some semblance of your coach, some normalcy with your coach there.
Yeah, I definitely think it helped out a lot. Especially for me, him being my uncle, it was nice to have a family face around the holidays and stuff like that. But he's also definitely more of a forward coach too, and to have him on that side with the forwards was definitely nice. I know the way that he likes to coach, and how he likes to ride the guys and stuff like that. So it was definitely really nice to have that familiar face. And obviously he's such an incredible coach, and I learned so much just in those 2 weeks that I didn't really learn last year at Harvard. So he's always teaching me new things and stuff like that. So it was obviously super nice and super special to have our coach and my uncle as a coach there.
What were some like team bonding things that you guys could do aside from, obviously you're spending the majority of time with the guys, but when you like got back to the room, was there anything that you guys did? Like, was it just playing video games like over Zoom or that kind of thing? Like while you were in quarantine?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of video games. A lot of guys doing movie nights or finding shows to binge watch. Kind of what you'd expect from a junior hockey team. One thing we did do that was different is during our 4-day isolation period, we had Zoom calls every day, as well as having lunch over FaceTime with a couple teammates to try to build that bond while we were separated from each other in the hotel. And the Zoom calls were pretty cool because we kind of went over some basic stuff, just schedule and whatnot, and then we would end with guys would go around and talk about the selected player for that day, kind of speak about what they need to do for us to be successful and what they can bring to the team, which I think built a really good sense of community amongst our group, and really started that bond, which I think anyone you talk to in our team would agree that there's just some pretty special Zoom calls, and there's a lot of good things said then. So there's definitely good bonding, and it came in various different ways, but it was I think we had a pretty good group overall.
How did this kind of help fill the void and make this year kind of a meaningful hockey year for you both? And I guess the second part of that was, has it made you think about maybe the next time you get to step back on the ice representing Harvard?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously Harvard is where we chose a school and our biggest passion, where we want to play. So for that to be taken away was definitely tough, but we realized the circumstances the school is under and what has to be done. So for us to be able to have the opportunity to do it together, as well as with Coach Donato, to kind of pursue our individual dreams and be able to play for the U.S. on that stage and win a gold medal, I think is something that really can't be put into words. And I definitely would say it filled that void of being able to play for Harvard and play with your true teammates. So to be able to have that experience, I think was probably the best you could ask for in a season that like we have now.
Yeah, like Henry said, that was definitely best case scenario for having your college season canceled. So it was super special. And, obviously, like Henry said too, our first passion and our first responsibility is our Harvard teammates and our Harvard team. And that's where we want to be. So it was definitely tough finding out that got canceled. But, having this opportunity to go play for your country was something we both knew was super special. And, to win a gold medal is even more special. And to do that with Henry and Coach Donato is unbelievable.
Thanks for watching, Crimson fans, and we look forward to seeing you at the Bright Landry Hockey Center soon.